Hello, and welcome to Higgs Cast Playing God. I'm Nick Logie, and with me as always are Jesse Chromeans,
Hey there.
and Stendar Nolan.
Soup.
And tonight we are going to be talking about a particular topic that involves creating and making plot twists in your game.
Basically, it translates to how to be a son of a bitch for about 35 minutes to your players.
I'm going to stop. It takes a lot longer to get that
With a
going.
really long prep time.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I've got a couple of bullet points I have written out.
Oh, Xander has notes. I see.
Oh, the first is what effect do you want to impose? The second, when should you implement the twist? And what do you need to do in order to set it up? I think if we cover those three topics, it'll give us the best focus and the best bang for the listener's buck.
Okay,
Thoughts?
sure. Let's.
what was first? Do the first one again. What was it?
First one is what effect do you want to impose upon the players? Like, what feeling do you want them to
Basically,
have?
the
Like,
emotional response of your homies.
The
exactly.
easiest and the easiest to set up, and also the most fun, is just the straight like surprise with the oh shit moment, like that, like a Shyamalan twist is surprisingly easy to set up. In terms of like concept and thinking, like actually doing it and sticking with it and responding to it is difficult. But like in terms of flavor, that's pretty good. Like I have told, I think we recorded it, me talking about my uh, solo game with
Oh yeah,
Marissa.
first
Oh yeah,
episode.
that was episode
Yeah,
one.
that tear for like, and that's the thing that incited the response of tears and sadness and sorrow, and that's very hard to pull off because that's a hard like response for people to have.
Especially when it comes
People
to
like
a
getting,
game that involves
yeah,
mostly murdering things
right,
and
and
getting
also
things.
is at its bottom line imaginatory, or it like false, not real.
Right.
Um, people like getting excited. People like being like, oh, oh, fuck, like the
Yeah, the,
the
the
rap,
the whole room
like,
erupts into like the oh shit
yeah,
moment, and like
oh,
people are
oh
like
shit,
launching
like,
out of their chairs and just unable to contain themselves with how much hype just erupted in the
each
room.
other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that
start
That
beating the shit out of each other. Some guy picks up a
that
chair, smashes it over your head.
okay.
it just turns
So
into G, and everyone starts sitting in doorways.
And then somebody just
last
rapidly crouches up and down, so just teabag.
so last night we were actually doing we actually had the instance of a twist happen. My character in the Legends of Latier game, Kenton, he basically had the sudden realization after putting together a couple of pieces and then intelligence check, and it's, hey, this thing could be a thing, and it was just the subtle kind of poke and poke, and it basically spiraled into the character freaking the hell out in front of all of the NPCs, and one of the player
Well, and the
characters
other actual
wasn't even
characters.
there, and the other player characters, but one of the other player characters wasn't even there, and she had to hear about this like a second time. Like she had to have the whole introduction to this happening kind of thing.
Mm.
So it was super intense. Like a major villain from the first season of the game came back through tricking us into letting him through.
All right, let me just break down how I set that up,
Yes, that's
because this was difficult to do, to say the least.
I can imagine.
Because even though it was one of the, I guess, simpler "oh shit" moments, making it so that way you guys didn't see it coming was a lot of work. So it started.
Yeah, because explain it to the point that I can understand, because and also I'll be a vehicle for understanding for the viewer, because you said what it is. I'm like, motherfucker, we got him. What? Like, my player character died, so this guy could be away or not around or whatever.
So the Demon Lord Awanok, the pretty much the big villain of the first act of the entire campaign, was defeated at the hands of the PCs, including Jesse's character, when they dunked his ass in lava. And being a demon, however, he doesn't actually straight up die. His soul returns to the
Oh
hells,
yeah, that's
and
right.
uh, he can reform there. Now, the important thing is, like, the portal that led to the material plane was destroyed, so he was still trapped there and was out of your hair. However, and this is the part that took a while, as they were traveling through that infinitely vast desert that lies below the only country in the world of Latir, they needed a quick way back home. And when I say quick, like instantaneous, because after months of traveling in one direction, getting back was not going to be easy.
You got to
Eh,
teleport.
that's right, you got to teleport. Now, due to the wonky meta magical nature of the location, straight teleportation isn't really viable because
Let
uh,
me guess. Let me take a swing and say they had to plane shift.
close. They had to construct a portal, like an actual permanent waypoint on the map, which that took a couple games just to get the material components and to actually construct the damn thing
Yeah, I bet.
itself. And even before all this happened, like I think the whole arc of this twist took like 10 to 15 games, something like that.
Yeah.
And it started when they were going to free a bunch of Yuan Ti settlers from a equal, well, more powerful Yuan Ti force that was oppressing them with an abomination and shit like that. And one of the characters, the barbarian, the moral compass of the party, he received a dream of this child, this little Yuan Ti child, that was kind of creepy, had the echoey voice effect that I love, and also had three eyes. He didn't
Red
trust this.
flag number
He
one.
didn't trust that. He didn't actually trust that originally. He shared his dream, and everyone was like, "No, do not do whatever it says." And so I was like, "Okay, that's legit, but let's see if I can still make this work." So after they destroyed these big ruins that this whole thing took place in, they kind of it collapsed in like this kind of like self-destruct mechanism thing, and it turned out that there were some very young Yuan Ti children in that place that inadvertently got killed as part of that, accidentally, but still not a good sign. And so with this Yuan Ti child explained that it was the amalgamated souls of these children who like got interfered with this magic and whatnot. But the barbarian was the only like character that they could visit because he seemed the most trustworthy. And so he was like, "No, I still don't believe you." And so after the course of a couple more dream sequences, the kid, also known as the Omni Child, who that's what he was designated as, was like, "Okay, do you want me to just not show up anymore?" And the barbarian's like, "Yeah, just don't talk to me again." And he was like, "Okay, fine." And he kept his word for a while until the prediction that the Omni Child made about one of Kark's, the barbarian's friends, was going to betray him, which did happen. Uh, he finally was like, okay, maybe I can trust this kid a little bit. I won't give him exactly what he asks for, but I'm going to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. And so, after a little while, they're constructing this portal, and the Omni Child returned to him in a dream and said, "This is about to end very badly because the magical sequence of sigils you have isn't going to work. It's going to like destabilize the portal due to the wonky nature of the desert and blow the whole thing to shit." And so he was like, "Okay, guys, this thing's been right before, and our friend did betray us. We might want to listen to it this time." And everybody was like,
Mm.
"Okay, fine." So they adjusted the runes on there, which only did a minor thing. There was only one thing that was really changed, and it was as the portal opens, it would temporarily dip into another plane, and but the portal would work perfectly fine other than that. And nobody figured out what that plane was until last night. And it turned out that plane was hell. And the reason why it was hell is because Awonak needed a chance to get through. So when they opened the portal, the Yuan-Ti child walked out, obviously disguised demon, and was like, "Cool guys, thanks." And then Xander, being the nice, good-hearted monk that he is, was like, "If you need a place to stay, like there's some settlements we found, like some people we helped. They're like here, here, and here." And the kid was like, "Okay, cool," and then he walked off. Then they went back to Latir, did some other shit, and then that's when they were like, "Wait a minute, something's wrong." Then they did figure out where the plane dipped into, and then I had a flashback sequence where part of the big reveal, which nobody had noticed before, because they eventually trusted the Omni Child, and one of the big things was, wait a second, he because he was presenting himself as the amalgamated souls of the dead children. Nobody caught on to the fact that the first time that he visited Karks in his dreams was the night before all that took place and the kids died. It was simply a ruse to like have him lower their guard because demons are not fucking nice. So wasn't afraid to use that excuse.
Now here's the even more screwed up part. The barbarian didn't tell us that his dream involved this thing until after the Omni children had died. So we had no real way of knowing. Because the first time he came to us, like, yeah, I had a really bad dream. It was this weird Yuan-Ti thing. It said there was going to be a war, and he didn't really explain it.
He was very vague, but
yeah,
specific enough so that way when something happened, it seemed like he was right and could be trusted. Until the point where they realized, oh shit, we just unleashed one of our old enemies. And returning back through the portal, they found that the Ivory Crow, their ship that had been traveling along the sands, was completely destroyed. One of their good homies, one of the NPCs, the captain of said ship, had been abducted by Awanok, and the chef, the cook on the ship, was almost dead when they got there because nobody was left to really defend it before they figured that out. They just kind of left it there. But basically, it took many games of in-play convincing the actual characters, and out-of-play making sure that even though the hints were there, nobody actually caught on to the fact of what I was doing, that it was going to be this big twist. And that's kind of the important part. Like, you for what I do for twists, if you got to have enough in-play clues that if somebody can figure it out, if somebody's really paying attention, then they can pull it out of their hat and be like, "I got you," and then you adapt the story therein. Because then the player feels great because it's just like, "I figured out your shit." And if they don't, which is kind of, I mean, the original plan to begin with, then everybody has the "oh shit" moment, and then they got to go from there.
Yeah, it was super intense.
which was kind of like the scenario with what's his face, Kenton's dad, and Porter, who obviously, like to find out later, was extremely evil. Was like, yeah, I don't trust this guy. This guy's like the devil. I don't trust him. You shouldn't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. I don't trust bureaucrats. Don't trust him. And then like he did his thing, and then like, I am the blah 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 blah, and Porter just like from his grave like, bitch, I told you.
I told you. You should have listened to me.
Did I tell you? What did I tell you?
But also, you shouldn't have listened to me because I was one of the twists.
Don't trust anybody, ever.
It was a twist. Yeah, it's basically come to the point where Kenton's like, you know what?
I don't trust anybody
I'm not going to trust
not even
any
myself.
Thing.
That's what happens with demons, dude. Fuck, man. Demons do not mess around.
No. And that point was gotten across in spades.
Yeah, it's...
So what was that? I went and explained an entire thing. What was that next thing on that list anyway?
Yeah, what was the second? Morty, what was the second
one? When should you implement a plot twist?
Whenever the fuck you can. But not really too often. I feel like one every like season or story arc is good. Um, it also depends on what game you're playing. Because if you're playing a game like Shadowrun, it should be every fucking mission because it's Shadowrun. Um, but like with D&D, I think it should be like once. I think it's like because Nick has had like three big ones in your Latier game of the whole Porter thing, Ken's dad, and then now this. And you got a 3-act game, and that seems like a perfect balance. Like,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of twists to the point that you're not overwhelming the character and just being like, "Fuck this, I'm not adventuring anymore." But enough that he's like, "All right, I gotta stop trusting things. I'm a dummy. I shouldn't punch things. I should use my weapons and activate the better parts of my monk class, and I should read my character sheet." Sorry, what?
I've been doing that. Okay, I've been doing that.
Okay, well,
He's actually been using his mechanics. It's amazing.
there you go.
It's pretty good.
There you go.
See,
Now, where I place them is in the narrative. If it makes sense for the next portion of the lead up to kind of build momentum to the season's climax, I'll put 1, maybe 2, and a season climax is a really good place for a plot twist. Like primary example, in the Thursday game that I was running for a while, there is 3 tabaxis. I've covered this before in the cast, so I'm sure you guys have heard about them.
right, catwrangler.com.
Yeah,
Catwrangler.com.
Xander the Pussycats. That's right.
The first twist was one of the player characters finding out that her husband, who had been burned alive directly in front of her, was not in fact dead, but
A
turned
fire
into
elemental.
a vampire by the guy who had her enslaved. And then the second twist that I implemented was the other player character, played by none other than our very own Nick Logie.
Yeah.
His mentor and kind of like a really important figure for his character's backstory was a guy named Baracus, and Baracus was beheaded right before the season finale, and right now we're taking a break. He gave up his own life and was beheaded, and then left a tearful note on Snow's bedside table.
Pretty much.
Like, I'm sorry. This is the reason why I did it. I hope you can forgive me. Here's my amulet. It was my focus. Please, I know you'll do well with it. Don't. I hope you can forgive me. Da 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 da. Like, and
So let me
all 3 of the characters
Wait, no,
were
go ahead.
fucked up. It was great.
let
Go
me
ahead.
ask real quick. How many games are you guys playing?
Oh, good lord, man. Okay, so I think up until Xander's took a break, I had 4 a week.
Jesus
It was,
Christ.
it was unwieldy.
I'm running 1, and I'm trying to be like, maybe I should get back into playing a game because I'm getting the itis. I'm getting the I don't want to GM anymore, but I still will. Like
Yeah.
because my story is super dope and I love it. But well, we'll talk about that after thing. It's just you guys like, yeah, in game 7B column A in first edition D&D that we're playing with the Hitler theme, you can see, you know,
Side advice:
Like,
don't play 4 games a week.
Okay. Side advice: don't play as many games as I was playing a week. I have Legends of Latier on Mondays, every Monday. I have Shenanigans in the Woods every other Wednesday.
Is that what it's
I
called?
had that's my wife's buddy's game, Gregor, real nice guy. It's actually pretty fun.
anyway,
So anyway, there's that game. I was running the Invisible Ring every Thursday, and then every Saturday we have my Shadows and Sin game, and then every Sunday we have Bobby's Underdark campaign called Indigo Rising. And those are the games that I'm in
that's
currently.
a lot.
Woof.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but
It's too many. I don't know if I can go back to doing more than this a week.
yeah, like running two different campaigns in the same world and the same
yeah,
canon
I
and the
would-
same setting.
I would-
that was fucking
I would
rough.
I would never do that ever. A side
Yeah.
game every now and then, a backstory maybe, a like that maybe. I would never do that.
It was murdering me. Like having characters that like you hear about the exploits of some of the one-shot characters and other characters that are doing stuff elsewhere in the world, that's really cool. But
You know
like
that's one thing. That's one thing we could talk about is the how to best create a world of depth. And one of the best ways to do that was just how Nick and I created a setting better than the Marvel Universe. And it was
oh hell yeah,
it's just
dude! I
we have run a bajillion games in a particular setting, and it's got more lore and twists and turns and love and romance and hate and fear and treachery than fucking Marvel and like DC combined.
oh
And
yes,
it's actually and it doesn't like fucking retardedly like retroact itself.
yeah, it doesn't deflate over time. It only gets better with age.
Yep.
It's like a fine
But anyway,
line.
now we're actually off
Yeah,
topic.
now we're way off. So
Yeah,
now
now
we
we're
should
way
bring
off
it,
topic.
reel it back in and get to the twist.
After the show, I want to talk to you guys about fucking your wolf games. But anyway,
Yeah.
best time to put it is it really depends. It depends on the game and whether or not you can pull it off. If you do it too often, they get thin.
Or it becomes like M. Night Shyamalan, where you're like, oh, this movie's directed by him. Where's the
Right.
twist?
Yeah, it's like, okay, where's the twist? Oh, you know that guy who had the hairpiece? That was Bruce Willis all along. What?
And he was from the moon!
He was. Oh shit!
But the moon is inside the sun. Okay, now you're just getting off the
Now you
rails,
just
M. Night.
lose-
But M. Night's like, wait a minute, hold on, I can go deeper.
But that's the thing is, it's it's like pizza. You don't want to have pizza every single night. You can, but it'll lose its luster and its majesty, and it'll probably get cold, especially if you leave it out on the counter for a while. You want to have it like on the weekend, near the end, near the celebration, kind of like how Xander said of near the season finale, like.
Well, you were mentioning earlier about Shadowrun and having more frequently, but like the impact and scale of the twist can also change. With Shadowrun,
Definitely.
you can have like a bunch of smaller twists that come out of left field or whatever,
And
because it's all about wheeling and dealing in the background.
It's even said in the blurb of Shadowrun of never cut a deal with a dragon, and like it's always understood that someone's gonna stab you in the back, and it's less like oh shit and more like oh fuck kind of twist.
Oh shucks, they got me.
You're like damn it, we got double crossed, or oh shit. And that's the thing is if you plan a twist and your players genuinely honestly figured out, like, don't be afraid to give it to them and let them be like, oh, look at this, you found this like crazy water bomb in the back of the car that was given to you by the Johnson. You should probably defuse that. Oh, look at that, it has a geo tracker on it. When it arrives at this particular location, it blows up. Good for you, you figured it the fuck out. Way to go, you did it.
Yeah,
And,
if they figure
you know,
out the twist, let them have it, because like otherwise you're forcing a twist, and then it's not entertaining for anyone.
that is in its own way gratifying how a twist can, because it's like, oh man, oh we've got a leg up on the adversary.
Right. Then you have the
big-
opportunity to do a counter twist where the players actually set some elaborate scheme up, and you're like, God damn, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
yeah,
where it's
like-
like, let's take out the nuclear payload from this bomb and put in a dud. Still have the bomb leave the tracker. We show up, they think we're dead. Then we come out guns fucking blazing.
ready to fuck shit up.
Nuclear launch detected, you know what I'm saying?
Nuclear lunch detected.
It's a radioactive sandwich.
You
So
can just
it-
yell that whenever you put something in the microwave.
All
It's 10.
right. Now,
What was the third one?
last bullet point, and here's the one where we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of things. What do you need to do to set up a twist? Here's where it gets complex.
You have to first don't lie to yourself about whether or not you can do it. If you think you can easily do it, then do it. If you think you can kind of do it, still try, because like if it doesn't come to light, the only person that knows about it not coming to light is you. And you can just kind of internalize that and be like, all right, well, I'll think of something else, or they figured this one out, or I don't really have enough stuff to make this relevant to the plot. Um, like I've had in my Heroes Under Heaven, my Tales of the Orient game. Um, I've had so many minor little twists and lies and deception because it's got a lot of intrigue and mystery, but it's got a lot of everything. And the only reason these twists never revealed themselves was because they weren't looked at, they weren't investigated. So they just happened off screen, and the bigger ones went off because they were world impacting. But like the if as long as you can prep and plan and have an answer to the questions when they say, "Hang on, what did that guy at the library look like who was checking out that big stack of books?" And you go, "Good thing you asked." Though you don't say like, "That's good you asked." You just answer the question, blasé. Don't indicate that it's anything crazy informative. And like, if it shows up that way, and if you can do it and keep up with that, then that's the best way, and that's how you best do it. If it's too much, like if you can't think or like keep track of all the shit you got going on, maybe don't do it. Maybe like work on a really big one, a big long payoff one.
Oh yeah, the long payoff twists
Yeah.
are so nice. They're
Well,
so
It's,
rewarding.
one of the examples that Jesse, I know you liked, it was in Shadowrun. Um, it
yeah, I have.
it was kind of a small twist, but the way it was executed was um, it turned it into one of
Yeah.
the most tense moments of this part of the series. And it was when you went to go meet that guy in like his apartment or whatever, and you were asking because I was trying to talk with like five of the players at the same time, and this guy was like, "Okay, he's pouring some drinks," and you're like, "Is he putting anything in those drinks?" And you rolled perception or whatever,
Oh fuck! God, dead shit!
and, and like
That still makes me mad.
and I just casually looked at you and said, "No, there's nothing in there." And then I immediately went back to talking to the other players like it was just a side note, like a casual thing that nothing actually was going on. You're like, "Okay," and he took a drink of it. Lo and behold, something was actually in the drink, and
That fucking
so
that was the fucking first time of three times where Trucker got five successes on a perception test and failed. Like fuck that shit.
that guy's role was
Coated
just a
coated
little
the
better.
glass. Coated the glass.
Yeah, and that was the thing is he didn't put anything in it, but there was something in it that I didn't know. So like that's the thing is that's a whole topic in and of itself is entitlement to the dice.
How to
Um,
poison the players.
yeah, how to kill your players in the ethical way where no one can call you a cheater. Yeah, dude, that one was sick. That one was awesome, and like it was super complicated and fucking
Well, because
like
then it turned
you're
into a
right.
big emergency because you were like, "Uh oh, I'm going unconscious and bad things are happening."
Yes, I'm
None of
going
the other
unconscious and
characters were in the room, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get in there." And
I'm 500 pounds and I'm about to fall. No one could pick me up. Oh God, here I go.
Jesus. Jesus.
That one was fun.
Yeah. I think that the most impactful twist from the Shadowrun series that I think was really hitting home was when Double Jack's Decker gang got fucking murked,
Yeah,
and oh, that was so fucking like it was stressful to watch.
that was a good sad twist.
Yeah, that was
so
that was
let
a
me
really
ask let
hard
me ask
thing.
you, since we're talking about twists, how how much evidence was portrayed leading up to that twist? Because I honestly, and I have no ill will about it at all, thought it was just like an 80s movie twist where it was like, it just happens. There's no real explanation. It's an inevitable thing that just, whatever, it happens. You expected it, just, whatever.
Okay, so
It's like,
this was it's a little hard for me to remember because it's been a long time, but um,
that's bad.
I didn't just throw it at a left field because I actually don't count those as like decent twists if it just comes out of nowhere. Uh, but at one point when you were decking, it was either like you left something or you hacked into something, but basically there was tracer ice around, and you were in your hideout. So basically, after some dice rolls, your location was found out, and they were initially going to go in there to try to get you. Because you turn off your
I
stuff
wasn't
after,
there.
yeah, you turn off your stuff after you're done hacking, so it's not like they had a constant feed of where you were. But they got there and found a bunch of other hackers that were also
Yep.
on their these are annoyances list, and so they got them.
Gotcha.
Wasn't
And
one of
that's
them
the
another
fucking
player character?
uh
I don't think so.
there. No, Anna's character was a part of the group or whatever, but she didn't die. And Dylan's retired AI hung out in the server room. Forecast the weather VI.
This is an interesting character.
That's a great character. I'm not gonna lie. That was a very well played character.
It was a good. It was a good name too.
Yeah, Forecast. It was very good.
It was pretty good one. I think the only two characters he ever played that I actually liked was Forecast
I
and
think.
then the droid from the one game that we played of your Star Wars game where you stuffed the
Oh yeah.
freaking the thing into there.
Yeah.
Let me out, you bucket of bolts.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You fucking boots. Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
Bender.
Yeah. That was pretty great. We'll kill you. I'm not saying anything. We'll pay you. What?
Yeah, that was the best, and like that's
Yeah, that was
one of the
the-
greatest NPC character moments ever. I think
That was
it was
the
really good.
inside joke for the while of. What?
Yeah, what?
Let me out the video bucket the bull. Yeah, the Watto. I can't remember what those things are called. Um.
Yeah.
Toydarian or Targaryen, something like that.
I think it's a Toydarian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Toydarian.
My tricks don't work on me. I'm a Toydarian. Yeah, you're right. Good pull. Good pull.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, the fuck. I remember one. Oh yeah, that's how we said it.
Now getting back on topic, one of the ways I set up twists, is I do it in one of two ways. For the big ones, I decide way beforehand, and I try and give myself as much time as possible so that I can have it in the back of my mind and answer questions when it's relevant, or like put in like a teeny tiny little detail here with a bunch of other details. Like, I don't know if you can taste that, but I've been putting peppercorn in your pancakes for months. Like that, you know. But the way I'll do small ones, like kind of decent ones, not like oh shit, but like oh fuck, like mystery style stuff, is if there's information that's kind of unclear or an outcome that doesn't get seen, and I know that it doesn't have to show up in game or this game, the like where the where it starts or ends rather. I'll sit on it. I'll think throughout the week leading up to the next game, and I'll think like, all right, what would this NPC do? Would this person have an interaction with it? And I'll just start like kind of generating content in my mind of the world and be like, okay, like for instance, when my players got to the Forgotten Realms and they made their way to Waterdeep, they had a contact to talk to try and infiltrate the Xanathar Guild. My setting is the world is flat, and on both sides there is a setting. One side there's the Forgotten Realms, on the other side is my setting. It's really cool, and the Underdark is between it, and the planes of the elements exist on the rim of the coin, and it's called the coin. But anyway, so they got to the Forgotten Realms, and they're doing this other thing, and their contact, the only friend they had, was like a spy in the Xanathar Guild, and she had to be like really low key and all this other stuff, and there was a defining characteristic to the player or to the character that only one character could see, and it was that the character was transgendered, and they just saw through they passed really well, but they saw through it. Then stuff happened. They got their spot got blown up. Then they found that body decapitated in a river, and they're like, oh shit, our contact got burned. We gotta hide the body, this and that, so that people don't whatever. And I go, do you investigate the body? And they said no. I'm like, okay. And I just to see like cause of death or anything, like, no, we're gonna dump this body and make sure that the guards don't see this because then we'll get pinned for it or whatever. I sat on it for a week. I was like, you know what? This motherfucker could have faked her own death. Let me see if let me think here and try and generate some stuff and this and that. And they came back on it and they saw her. It was like a Batman style thing of like seeing them in a French villa, I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. And they came back on that detail and was like, oh, she's alive.
That's
And
kind
that,
of awesome, actually.
yeah, but that's the thing is, it was in my mind, is kind of gray twist, where it was undefined originally, but because of the nebulous nature of roleplay, and I think of the game of roleplay a lot of like the game Bastion, where you just have to keep laying bricks in front of these fucking players, and you got to decide whether to make a path or to make a wall, and the question is, if you have to make a path, what's it going to look like? And so sometimes if they don't explore a path, I'll just put down a squiggly piece, and if they don't ever look back, then it doesn't matter. It's not lost. Um, so that's how we'll do them. Because as long as you have a big one in mind, like Nick's Return of Awanok, or like the what do you call it? The return, the betrayal of the Demi-Lich friend. Like, come on, how can you know? As long as you keep that in mind and like have certain things, be like, it seems off, but I don't really care to investigate it. It can pay off in a pretty big way.
Yeah, the payoff for the GM for a twist is like you implemented a really good point to the story, and it's an impactful moment that will live on long after the campaign is over. Like you guys are going to be talking about it for months, weeks,
Forever.
forever. Like with some of the twists that we've done, and if the players' characters figure it out, that's one of those like those really gratifying moments. Like, yeah, we did a badass thing, and they get that payoff, and that figuring it out is one of the greatest feelings you can have as a PC, and implementing and setting up twists so that you can like leave the bread trail, like the breadcrumb trail, and let your PCs like oh there's slices of bread here. What the hell? What is with the
Slices
bread?
of bread on a breadcrumb
But
trail,
yeah,
motherfucker.
that's a loaf.
That's a reaction.
That's
The truck got tipped over.
Well, no, it's like
got their
they
whole
see the
loaf.
breadcrumbs, they see the breadcrumbs, they see the breadcrumbs. Yeah,
Someone
they,
murdered a baker.
someone murdered the baker. They see the breadcrumbs, they see the breadcrumbs, they see the breadcrumbs. Then they see the whole
Baker.
loaf. Yeah.
That's another thing is we kind of talked about when like just to touch one more time on how to do it. I did this with murder mysteries, and I think I talked to you about this, Nick. Where it's quite literally playing it out, playing the whole thing out.
Yeah, I remember that.
A incident with a farm. It's just a simple quest of, hey guys, go here, investigate this farm thing, and see what killed these farmers and their kids and their livestock, and go kill it. And I was like, okay, I want to know how this fight went out, because I can't think. I'm like, it was goblins, and I had to sit down and think. All right, let me map out the farm. Let me think of this. All right, I've got the general idea.
Which you're going to be doing for the most part anyway, so this next part just kind of rolls right in.
I did it in an imaginative way at first. I was like, okay, so, all right, married couple, male, female, 2 kids, boy, girl, standard family 4. Okay, farm, small, got it. I want goblins to attack. And I you, the GM, are going to know whatever the answer is because you're God. You're playing God. And so I was like, goblins. I wanted to be goblins. Or hobgoblins, excuse me. And I looked at the sheet, and I'm like, okay, they got some pretty heavy stuff. All right, they would open with by doing this. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just run it. And so I pulled out tokens, and I made a map, and I did it on grid paper instead of like putting it on the battle map, because I live with some of my players, and I don't want to spoil anything. But I just ran it out piece by piece, ran it like an NFL playbook. And these were commoners, 5 HP, AC of 10, average stats versus hobgoblins with plate mail and shields and short swords and longbows, like grade A. Like, Dad got crit first turn, crazy damn, like big time stuff. And because I ran it out, I got to know where each arrow landed, where each blow went, where this and that, so that when they asked, I would know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Here's this, footprints leading here, and that, especially when you have such great detailed things in scenes, not just like a murder mystery, but in anything, it allows for people who specialize in certain things to uncover them. Like if it's an arcane, mystical thing that only the wizard can see, the more detail you have about it, the more rewarded the player will feel for having discovered it. I had a player who has a perception of 27, passive of 27, guys. By the way, it's like it's
That's
out of control.
preposterous.
It is out of control. I'd agree with you harder, except two of the characters in my game have
Yeah.
20 plus, like 23 plus passive
Kenton's got a
perceptions.
21 and Meepo has a 23.
And so,
We see all the shit.
And so I said, okay, with your passive, you can see. She can just see footprints. She doesn't have to roll for it. She gets it. So she could see these trails. She couldn't get the minor things, but because I had all these details and where the actual pieces moved, I could more adequately do that and display that. And when I ran it and actually let stats decide, the mother survived, and because she technically survived an encounter with with 4 hobgoblins, she gained XP, enough XP to level up. She became a fighter. She had fuck off scars, and then she sold her farm, bought equipment, and she became the quest giver and not the city guard who I'd originally thought. And because I had all these full details, it totally changed the mystery. I had a witness to a crime that I did not originally think was going to have any survivors to. And it completely changed the story, and it gave it more detail, more life, and more reward. Because, like I was saying, if the more detailed you get, the more opportunity you have to reward hard work done by your players. Like, if it had been beast-related things, or like shapeshifters, and I had like a ranger or a druid, they could have seen right through that shit. They could have been like, see, the footprints change from quadrupedal here to bipedal here. They dropped this hair there. It's a werebear. This, that, blah, blah, blah. Boom. It's a werewolf. Fuck you, or whatever. Like, it's the more you make, the more you can give, and that applies to not just mysteries and twists, but everything in running games.
That's actually a really sophisticated way of going about it. I've always set up my campaign, my encounters and everything based on, all right, these are what I want to have in there. This is the area that they're going to be fighting in. Let's throw some stuff in there so it looks,
Now,
like make it look like it's supposed to be there. But I didn't actually play all that out. That's actually really deep.
I've only done that twice because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because combat already takes a long time, and when you're doing both sides of it and keeping track of stats, and because it was like there was a scenario where I could have had lizard folk lizard men operated by a dragon fighting undead to see the results of that. I'm like, I'm not. I just decide who wins and I decide the losses. I'm not doing all this shit. You see bones lying on the ground underneath the lizard men. Moving on.
It's much better
Like,
on
that's it.
smaller scale. Don't have
Right,
entire armies fight each other unless you want to dedicate your week to doing that.
Look at the Unearthed Arcana rules for mass combat. They work great. And it's a lot like Advance Wars, Nick. You should really look at it. It's incredible. I think you'd love it.
All right.
But yeah, on a small scale, it works really well because you can get down to the nitty gritty. And especially if it is a giant war, you don't need to describe every fucking footprint of every orc that was on the battlefield. Like, that's, there's definitely diminishing returns when it comes to GMing. But for certain things that are very complicated or very key, it definitely doesn't hurt to simulate stuff out. And you don't even have to write it out every time. Just, like, look at stats, and calculate damage per turn versus AC and average percentile to hit. And then be like, okay, this thing can clearly beat this thing in a fight, so we see this thing walking away from this scene with this much HP because I calculated it, so that when they show up on the scene, this whatever the fuck it is has 13 HP instead of 300 because it was a close fight. And just small little simulations like that can go a long way and make it more real.
Yeah, and if for some reason you like fuck up your original plan, because there have been times where, for like the twist aspect of this, less of the simulation, where I accidentally revealed certain information, or just in general, like was like, oh crap, I think I may have just blown this whole thing by accident. If you can like wrap that, like if you could take that, Like, don't backpedal on it because then it's obvious and then it's already ruined anyway.
Yeah.
But if you can take this new accidental information that you ad libbed or whatever and maybe roll it into the greater thing, you can not only possibly even make the twist better, uh,
Mhm.
Oh
but
yeah,
you can at least recover it without, if in ideal circumstances, like no extra suspicion, because a lot of
yeah.
times players are going to be suspicious of everything you put in front of them, regardless. So it's not as hard to recover from a stumble like that, unless you straight up just like list out an entire few sentences
Like,
of,
oh, the lich is blind. Oh no.
"Oh, I just
Yeah,
ruined
well, I mean,
everything! Spoiler
with
alert!"
with stuff like that, it really sets you up for a good, like, if you own it and you feel like it's like you make them think that you intended to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
you intended to do that. You got another week to
And that,
plan. Maybe you can set
yeah.
up a counter twist, like this is what you think is going to happen, and this is what you figured out is that's a pretty intense twist. Oh
Yeah,
shit! What the fuck just happened?
you turn it into a bait
Yeah,
and
I
switch.
actually
Yeah,
I
bait
had
switch.
that happen once where I showed a character from the future, and I realized their particular thing they weren't going to live to be that long because of a thing I designed. It's a custom race character. It's a thing I designed myself, and the life expectancy was not that, so it was false. And I was like, I fucked up really hard here, and they like helped the party for a whole game, and because they're in this alternate dimension, they meet this future version. I'm like, what I'm gonna have instead is this whole alternate dimension be a demiplane created by the Lich, and that character had been a doppelganger the whole time. Then reveal that, so that
Yeah.
my fix became the twist rather than my fuck up.
Yeah, that also not only fills the plot hole itself if you mess up like that, but it could also advance or deepen the lore of your own world that you've created, because now all of a sudden you have this artificial plane.
Yep, that and the Lich, and yeah, that's the new information of the Lich can create demiplanes pretty quickly because this is detailed. Um, and yeah, so it's. I think that's one of the benefits of having a week to play a game. Like during Irma, I was at my friend Katie's house, and I had every one of my players there. So I was like, "Fuck it, we're gonna play a game because we have no power." And then we still didn't have power 2 days later. I'm like, "Fuck it, we're gonna play again." Then 2 days later after that, I'm like, "Fuck it, still we're playing." And and I didn't have a chance to generate as much content. And in fact, for one of my games, there wasn't any combat because I didn't have a lot of time to plan. And I think that if you give yourself a week to just sit and think and review your notes and look at your stuff and listen to your players talk about stuff, if you can like powwow, have lunch with one of your players, or just like get ideas off them and kind of see where it's going, it helps to either cover up stuff you've done, advance the stuff you have, or just get more excited and more creative. Like some of my best fucking twists come from when I'm balls fuck tired at 2 a.m. the night before a game, and I'm like, oh dude, it would be sick if this happened. Oh fuck.
What was I
And
doing
then
before? Fuck that. This is way cooler.
yeah, exactly. It's like, dude, fuck this mini boss, dude. Oh, dude, fuck.
What if the mini boss is the quest giver?
Oh
What
shit!
if this person was a dragon the whole time? Oh shit,
Now see, I've done that one before. It's fucking.
dude, I do that on the regular because it's called Dungeons and Dragons, motherfucker, and my characters are level 20 now. They have got to hang with some fucking dragons.
In some
Oh, damn.
dungeons.
Yeah. And that should be another thing we talk about is post level 20, because I have done a lot of research into that, and much like Destiny, getting to max level is just the beginning.
Really?
Did you find like the
Oh yeah.
really epic level stuff? I think for fifth ed it's only like,
I-
is it still only homebrewed, or do they actually have official rules yet?
No, they have gentle rules. They're about as strict as Fate. Um, it's all stuff that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and like I read one paragraph and I was like, oh my fucking god, why didn't I start my players at level 20 and just do this for a year and a half? I'm like, why didn't I do this instead? And I was like, you know what? I can do this afterwards, because this is it. They are about to go get the Lich. They have the peace. They've won the war. They are rushing to his island. And they've got like fuck tons of fighting to do. And I've told them, I'm like, look, this is this isn't over. We've got all this stuff to do after this because I now because I have all these things. And speaking of twists, one of the things I've been doing is talking about Mechanus, which is a demi-plane which is in canon for D&D, and where it's like all the math of the world exists because Mechanus works.
Is that where
I
those
put it,
weird like polyhedron things came from?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. The,
Those
the,
are fun.
the drones or whatever. And I put a minor itty bitty little plot hook, and it said, "Oh, someone took a mono drone from Mechanus," and someone just made a comment that said, "Yeah, last I checked, Mechanus was off by one. It shouldn't be off by one," and that was it. And so here you go. Here's this hook for this potential twist or whatever for post 20 content.
That's
But
right. And since it's post 20, that means the main enemy is somebody who divides by 0, and then
yep, God,
fucks
you have to
everything up.
hold the planet together. But I think now we're just getting on to theory because I think we've got it all figured out.
Well, at least a baseline.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have a good idea of what we all do, and hopefully
Yeah.
that helps.
It's always set it up, plan for it, expect it to fail, because the hard truth is like
Yeah, it
only
might fail.
only half of your content will ever see the light of day that you come up with, and then only a tenth of it is going to survive player interaction. Like they will inevitably fuck
Absolutely.
your shit up. So yeah, but
They
if
will
they don't, it's a great twist.
pee in your apple juice. They will definitely do that.
Why is there piss in my apple juice? All right, well, hey, I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We've discussed twists, and as it were, I'm Nick Logie, and of
I'm
course,
Xander
I
Nolan.
am Jesse D. Burps a lot. Morty Rick Sanchez. Chromines. That's my other name.
Signing out.
see ya.